welcome to In Conversation with Hemali. A big hello from Singapore as well as from Mumbai. A promising tabla player, Unmesh Banerjee, comes from a family of North Indian classical musicians. Tabla occurred very naturally to Unmesh, and he first performed publicly at just the age of 6 years. He has been performing solos and accompanying artists across India as well as in Dublin, Ireland, Austria. Currently, he is the head of the department of the rhythm department of Ustad Rashid Khan Sahib's Academy, the Fifth Note, and is an artist at the AI. He is also a recipient of the CCRT Scholarship and ICCR. Welcome, Unmesh. It is such a pleasure to have you here with us.
It's an honor to be talking to you, Hemali ji, and I'm looking forward to this.
Thank you, Unmesh. So, Unmesh, I'm going to straight jump into my question answer session. Is that fine?
Of course, yeah.
Great.
Please.
So, Unmesh, you were working in the IT field, and soon after your graduation, that is, if I'm right, how did this transition, from the IT field to becoming a freelance musician happen?
Okay, so I belong to a musical family, and music was the one constant of my life. It was always there, even when I didn't take it up consciously. It was always there. So, for example, a lot of the things that I know musically, I can't recall how I know that. So my subconscious had been absorbing music for years and years because of my father, who's my guru, Pandit Sunil Banerjee, and my mother, who's a fantastic vocalist, Bharti Nanavati Banerjee. And even my grandfather was, one of the first Gujaratis in Kolkata to bring forth the magic of classical music to the entire community. And he was himself a self-taught genius composer, where he didn't really receive any formal learning, but he composed about 300 songs based on all common classical ragas and rare ragas too. So that's where I belong from. So doing music was just a regular part of life. It was not extraordinary till I decided to make it extraordinary.
Sure.
And I was always into a lot of activities, be it sports, studies, and I like doing it genuinely. I like my studies, I like my science, I like maths, I like coding, and hence engineering happened. And after engineering, the job happened on its own. Right from even before I sat for my interviews, I was selected because of the internship that I did.
Wow.
So all that happened because I loved doing what I did back then. And in my mind, however, I knew I wanted to be a musician at some part of my life, at some point. And by musician, I mean a professional musician who doesn't do anything else. Okay. So that decision I made after I worked for a few years. And it was very important. Even working as a professional for an IT company taught me a lot of things that made me grow as a musician. Okay. That might sound strange, but it did. So, for example, being on time, meetings, talking with people, managing my own PR,
right,
and simple things like writing an email too. Small things in life that we pick up without knowing much about it. So I thank my educational life, my working life, and it has all played a part in me being a musician.
Fantastic. So Unmesh, am I right to say that what you're saying is that your experience, while you were working, and is helping you to become a better musician? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes, overall, it just definitely the corporate grooming is a part of life now, which I'm very happy, and the academic grooming too. That I learned that, I mean, it's strange to correlate different things, but when you look back, the dots are all joined beautifully. So I learned Carnatic music too, and the reason why I'm mentioning that is because Carnatic music is extremely scientific and analytical.
Right. Okay.
Maybe a little bit more than the North Indian style too. North
Oh,
Indian
okay.
style flows more with the emotions and everything, but the
Okay.
South Indian style is more analytical scientifically. So the rhythm aspect, for example, is pure math,
Oh,
beautiful
really?
mathematics.
Wow.
Yeah, and my academic upbringing helped me see music in terms of rhythm, in terms of math. Helped me
Wow.
see rhythm in terms of math. So I have to thank all my math classes. I mean, it's not that there's a direct correlation that some formula of integration is being used in tabla, not that way,
Right.
but it's just that your mind is developed to calculate quickly. So all
This
those
is.
competitive exams
Mhm.
played their part.
This is so interesting. I mean, music and academics brought together and learning, from here to the. Wow, Unmesh, this is something lovely that you've spoken to us about. Um, Unmesh, you just mentioned that you were interested in maths and coding and science and other subjects, and in music as well. Um, and it's lovely that you had interest, everywhere. But what made you decide to focus on music only?
So like I said, music was always a part of me. Even before I was born, I was exposed to music way
Right,
before I was born. So it goes back to my grandfather's time. So it
right.
was always there. And when I Saturday, Sundays in my childhood, I used to go for cricket coaching. I was crazy about
Oh,
cricket, and I
okay.
played it to a certain level too. Then soccer happened. Volleyball happened at one point, which my father didn't let me play because the hands are directly in danger when you
Oh,
play
okay.
volleyball. So
Okay. All right.
I have done strange things. I don't know how, but I have a medal in javelin. I have a medal in high jump, and I play tabla now. So there is
This
no
is,
relation to.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
So
then,
coming back to why the music thing.
yeah.
So I would do all that in the morning, go to my school for practice, do the cricket practice and etc. Then I would come back home and there would be tabla classes going on at home.
Mhm.
And I would see some kid, really doing well.
Yeah.
And I would get jealous of them that mere hi pitaji ke student are playing better than me. How is that
Wow.
possible? Then that, I would just sit and try and outdo them. So that
Mhm.
was one, I mean, a very childish thing, but that
Of
kept
course.
happening. So music kept happening.
Yeah.
And when I reached IT,
Hmm.
when something is taken, something that you take for granted is taken away from
Yeah.
you kind of understand the value of what that means to you.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
even though I knew I'm going to be a musician someday,
Yeah.
uh, being in the office for 12 hours made me realize how
Yeah.
much of a musician I want to be.
Wow.
Because for
Fantastic.
those 12 active hours during the day, I was missing music. So I would
So,
immediately run back home and get back.
yeah. So this also tells me that you were constantly exploring your own self, trying to understand what you really want. Meaning, you took up the job, and in those 12 hours while you were working, you were also thinking how much more of a musician you wanted to be. So you were basically trying to know yourself more and more all the time, and that's something that we all miss doing, isn't it? Would you agree that most people
Absolutely.
tend to, yeah. Wow, great. And to the viewers, we have an all-rounder here with us. I mean, he was good with his academics, he did sports, he won medals over there. Now, an upcoming, in fact, a well-established now tabla player. Unmesh, such a pleasure to have you here. My next question to you. I understand that you learned to play tabla from your Guruji. Did you experience any kind of friction with your teacher by um, manipulating the traditional ragas for the more modern approach?
Oh, interesting question. Well, did I struggle? Well,
Hmm.
later on in life,
Yeah.
little bit, but initially,
Hmm.
not really, because thankfully, my father was never the kind who would be, practice 20 hours or you won't get food. It wasn't like that, thankfully, because then I always played whenever my heart really wanted to play.
Right.
So
Mhm.
even if I put in 2 hours, it was pure 2 hours that I was enjoying to the brim.
Right.
So whatever time I spent has been quality time with music. And
Mhm.
later on, yes, I do love breaking rules. And if someone tells me this is a rule, for sure I'm going to break it.
I like it.
But my father, yeah, so my father dealt with it in a, parents actually, both of them dealt with it in a very smart way. So they
Mhm.
would let me do what I want, but they would also warn me ki, if you know, if you do it this way, this might happen, that might happen. So they would give me the picture as much as they could, and
Wow.
then it was up to me to take a call. So at times, what the final result, what would usually happen is that I would take the risk, break the rules, but
Mhm.
maybe not to an extreme level.
Right. So that
So
means, the family support in terms of pushing you just right enough was what, helped you so much, right?
yes, yes,
Wonderful.
definitely.
How different was your experience in performing in front of an Indian audience and that with the international audience?
Oh wow, completely different actually.
Really?
So yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So what happens in India is that usually your audience for classical music, and I'm referring to the classical shows, not to the other kind of shows
Sure.
that I do.
Sure.
So the classical audience in India, especially in the cities which have a deep-rooted history in classical music, like Pune, Mumbai,
Mhm.
Kolkata, Delhi,
Okay.
and then if you play Carnatic, then Chennai and stuff.
Sure.
The out of say 500 people or 1,000 people attending your concert, 80% will be knowledgeable people who would have heard all the legends that
Oh,
we look up to. So they'll be comparing you to that,
with the legends
that
there,
level.
right?
Yes. So they'll come and say, Beta, अच्छा बजाया, but your father, in 1980s, he played like this, and wo baat, you have to work a little harder. So I'm like, of
Tougher
course,
to
thank you
please.
so much. Of course, very tough to please. At the same time, they also come and bless you.
Fantastic.
So it's a lovely chemistry with the Indian audience.
Okay.
Abroad, it's a little different. People are extremely excited to listen to Indian music.
Okay.
So that way, the audience there is very open-hearted. They just sit in awe and look at you,
All right.
at your instrument, and how much just two small little drums can play a solo for 1 hour, etc.
Wow.
They look at you in absolute awe.
Fantastic. Wonderful.
However, the post-concert interaction is a little less. They'll give you all their love, and even the tamiz, I should say. The word tamiz means well, difficult to
The respect.
explain in English.
Would you?
Respect in terms to the musical field.
All right.
Okay, it's kind of different both in India and abroad.
Oh, it is? And how different is
Both.
that?
I mean, in Europe, people will 20 minutes before the concert starts, they'll sit. The room is packed. No one will move while
Mhm.
you're playing. No one will even go to the washroom. And there's usually, if it's a long concert, there's a break in between, which is
Sure.
when they go out or use their phones or whatever.
Yeah.
Indians, as we all know, and including me, when I'm a part of the audience, we are a little more fidgety. So,
All right.
someone will whisper a bit or will go out, take a call and stuff.
Wow.
So that way, yeah.
Very interesting. So, as an artist, obviously the audience that is going to be glued, is more welcome. But how does it affect your performance when an audience is fidgety?
Well, then I have to think about. It depends on how much of the audience is being fidgety. A few people here and there might just be personal calls, which
Okay.
is perfectly okay. But usually I've had never had to think much about what's happening to the audience because God's grace, I've had that connection with the audience usually.
Fantastic. This is
So I've never
lovely.
had to really think about, अरे नहीं जम रहा है आज, तो what extra can I do to please the
Sure.
God's blessing. I haven't had to think much about
Lovely.
that.
Lovely. So, Unmesh, you just mentioned right now that you you perform for the classical programs and otherwise. So, what does otherwise mean?
So yeah, like we were discussing about me doing academics in sports. In music too, I've tried and I still try my hands at anything that makes noise.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so I play a lot of percussion instruments.
Oh, all
And
right.
like I said, I learned Carnatic, and I'm still learning Carnatic. So that kind of approaches rhythm in a very, very, very elementary level. So it goes beyond the instrument you're playing.
Oh,
It's
right.
just pure math and music at one point. So
Wow.
that helped me explore a lot. It gives you a language to play on even a table. So even
Really?
if I'm playing the table, I'm like takadimi, 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 etc. You
How
know,
about it?
and so I try my hand at almost all percussion instruments. In college, I was a drummer, so I experimented with rock and bands like Iron Maiden, Bengali rock
Wow.
bands.
My goodness, what all have you done, Unmesh? And you're such a young man. I mean, wow. Great. So, Unmesh, any special memory or an experience you would like to share with us during your performances?
Like I was telling you that when you don't get something that you take for granted, you truly understand the value of that. And while this COVID pandemic is on and concerts are not haven't started in full swing yet,
Okay.
that's when I mean, me and all other musicians have truly realized the power of playing in front of an audience, a live audience.
Wow.
Because the entire last 10 months, we are looking at the phone and playing, which
Wow.
is kind of, yeah. So
Yeah.
now when I look back, every concert has been special because I'm missing every little, even if it's a small classical gathering with 50 senior people or 500 people just wanting to be odd, I'm
Yeah.
missing all of it. And if
Wow.
I have to pick and choose one or two,
Yeah.
whenever I get to play with senior artists like Ustad Rashid Khasa, Ustad Shahid Parvez ji,
Oh, you have played with
Talat
them.
Aziz ji, yeah. So those moments are just too special. All you have to do at that point is think you're a sponge and absorb all the energy.
Really.
And those moments have been really precious.
Wow. Wow. Beautiful. It was, and I really hope that we get rid of the COVID problem, soon with the vaccinations and all that have come out, and you go back to playing in front of an audience soon. Yeah. Unmesh, most people think that tabla is an instrument from India. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it developed from influences from Afghanistan, Pakistan, and connections to Turkey and Iran. Therefore, it has a mix of influence. What are your thoughts on this?
So the word, there's a little ambiguity in the history. There's no perfect history that is known to the historians. So the origin of tabla, the word tabla, there are two stories to it.
Mhm.
One is that it comes from the word tabal, which is probably true, and
Okay.
it makes logical sense. So the word tabal, T-A-B-L,
Mm-hmm.
is used for all percussion instruments in the
Oh,
Middle
okay.
East even today. Even today.
Oh, all right.
Probably the word tabla came from tabal. There's
Okay.
another, of course, it's a funny story that the Pakhavaj, a great maestro's Pakhavaj broke from the middle, and then they made it stand up vertically, and it
Mhm.
still had a beautiful sound. And then some maestro said, "Tabbi bola, tabbi bola, tabbi bola, tabbi bola se tabla." That's of
क्या
course a
बात है?
little.
Wow.
There's no authenticity to that, but I think it's a funny story.
This is very interesting, in fact. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
but
Mhm.
at that point, when Amir Khusro II, there are two
Mhm.
Amir Khusros, and there's a bit of confusion regarding that. Amir
Okay.
Khusro II, when he came to India, there was, of course, a lot of music in India with our Drupad system was the most popular system back then.
All right.
So from the veena came the sitar and the sarod and everything. And the
Sure.
singing style changed from Drupad to Khayal style, which is a more mellow kind of,
Hello.
compared to the Drupad.
Right.
format.
Yeah.
So
Softer.
then the Pakhavaj was a little too macho and loud an instrument to suit those the sitar or the sarod and vocal, and hence came the prominence of tabla.
Oh, I see.
So the process of evolution in music, which we call fusion today,
Right.
has been happening for centuries way back.
Right. Wow. Wow, Unmesh, you have provided us with so much information, and it's really, really very interesting. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. You know, being laymen who don't know music really, and not knowing the history of music, this has come as you know a great learning for all of us. Thanks, Unmesh, and may I ask you to kindly leave a message for the younger generation on how you achieved success and what they can do to follow your footsteps. I also would like to know what success means to you.
Okay, and to answer your second question first, I really don't know what success means. I enjoy the journey, and I think it's all about the journey. If you say a nice ride of the journey is success, well then yes, that's success for me. But the
Beautiful.
destination is not. I don't think any of us are looking for the destination. We want to have a good journey.
Right, wonderful.
And as for the next generation,
Mhm.
a lot of people are intimidated by classical Indian classical music, be it
Yes.
the North Indian or the Carnatic. So just a little word for them is that you don't need to be intimidated. Yes, there's a lot of hard work required if you want to be a classical musician, but that's kind of true even if you want to be an engineer or a doctor. You have to study from class one and then do your graduation, post graduation, doctorate, which about takes 15 to 18 years to do. So if you give 15 to 18 years to music, you
Mhm.
will be as successful as you would have been giving that much time to academics.
Lovely.
So that in that sense is it's like any other thing. And for listeners, just take it easy. You don't have to understand the nitty gritties of classical music to understand to cherish it. Just like if I'm trying a new cuisine, I
Yeah.
don't necessarily need to know all the ingredients. I can
Sure.
just cultivate a taste for it without knowing how much garlic or how much some X sauce goes into it. I can just cultivate a taste for it. Same with Indian classical music. Just give it time, enjoy, you'll fall for it.
How beautifully explained, Unmesh. I mean, you're a young man, and look at the way you have, answered this question. Beautiful. Thank you so very much, Unmesh,
Sure.
for that encouraging message and for gracing my channel. It was such a pleasure to learn more about the instrument tabla. Wishing you the best as you continue to rise in the field and inspiring the upcoming musicians. It is invigorating to see you dedicating your life to what brings you joy by pursuing these passions wholeheartedly. And by doing that, you inspire us to do the same too. For my viewers, you can, I will be adding on links of Unmesh's tabla playing videos, so you can watch it over there. And I will be also adding on a video that Unmesh has shared with me while he was playing, the tabla. And thank you very much, Unmesh. It was absolutely brilliant talking to you.
Thank you, Hemali ji. Same here. And I thank on behalf of the audience that you are taking out precious time from your busy schedule of teaching and all your other activities to inspire the next gen through your YouTube channel. And the dear audiences, please follow all the videos and subscribe to Hemali ji's channel.
Thank you so much. I was about to say that don't forget to like and subscribe, but now I don't need to say that because my guest does that for me. Thank you very, very much, Unmesh, and good luck.
Thank you.